Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Mullins again, and I have a very special story for you today in honor of Black History Month. The title is In the Time of the Drums. It's written by Kim L. Sagelson and illustrated by Brian Pickney. It's a Coretta Scott King award-winning book. I hope you enjoy it. In the long ago time before now, on an island fringed by marsh meadows and washed by ocean tides, men and women and their children lived enslaved. This was a time when giant live oaks trembled with the sound of drums. And say some, it was a time when people could walk beneath the water. Used to be in those early days, ships as big as barns would land on a dock at a bluff near Tea Kettle Creek. Pirate ships with treasure to bury, cargo ships filled with cinnamon, slave ships bringing African people to do work on plantation farms. Some of those Africans came knowing how to carve wood and make sweetgrass baskets and goatskin drums. With those things, they reminded themselves of home, wished they could go back there. One boy, named Mintu, had never known Africa or longed for it. He was an island-born boy. Mintu could scoot to the top of a live oak faster than a bush-tailed squirrel, could lift a black iron skillet above his head with one hand, even though he still wore shirt tails. "Look how strong I am," he would say to his grandmother Twi. Twi would smile and cluck her tongue at him. "Stop your fooling, lest the overseer catch you, sir. Your time for strong will come soon enough." "When?" Mintu would ask. Twi would not say. Mintu had always lived with Twi. The islanders, black and white, all feared her. Africa had been her birthplace. There she had learned powerful root magic at her grandmother's knee. Igbo conjure woman, the islanders called her. Older than anyone living, they said. But Mintu paid them no mind, had only known kindness from Twi. You see, Twi loved Mintu like her own soul, like the faraway rivers and mountains of her native land. Some said his first breath had come from her own mouth, that as a new babe, he had been still until she whispered the secret of life onto his tongue. He had wailed at the truth of it and waved his fist at her and at the charm bag she held out to him. "Not with fists," she said, gathering him against her chest. "Listen close and learn how to be strong." He had slept to the sound of Twi's heart. Every day, Mintu went with Twi to take water to the fields, could carry 2 full buckets by himself. Strong as that made him seem, he was a mischief-making boy child all the same. "The bucket handles pinch my hands," he sometimes complained to Twi. "You carry the water for me today." "No, sir," she would say with a cluck her tongue. "Twi can't be taking up your burden from you. Look out to the field workers when your hands is aching and count your luck. Soon it will be your time to be strong, and Twi won't be helping you then." "How will I know when to be strong if you don't tell me?" Mintu would ask. Twi would not answer. She knew many secrets. She shared only what she wanted to. Mintu looked to the fields and watched the people bend beneath the blistering sun to slave in soil planted with cottons and cane, blue indigo seed. He saw how they worked from dark of morning to dark of night, harvesting what they could not keep. Twi told him that the long, hard work had broken them, made memories of Africa sink so far back in their minds that they could no longer be reached. The old ways had slowly slipped away and been left behind like sweet sweat drops in newly plowed soil. But Twi remembered the time before, spoke the old words to herself in the morning while she worked, sang African songs to Mentu in the afternoon until he could sing them back. At dinner, told him old stories so rich he could almost smell the sweet scented air of her homeland. Put the skin drum between her own knees and taught him ancient rhymes until they felt as natural to him as his own beating heart. Then come a day so hot, even the gnats hushed their whining to sit among the tree shadows. In that breathless quiet, Mentu and Twi filled their buckets with well water. But before they could carry them to the fields, they heard the sound of drums beating from the far end of the island. Boom, bop, boom. Boom, bop, boom. It was a message in rhythm that meant, a ship is come, a ship is come. Mentu beat his own drum. Be-e-bow, be-e-bow. We hear, we hear. He and Twi gathered with everyone else at the bluff to see what the ship had brought. It flew a Spanish flag, but it did not carry gold or jewels or sweet spices from India. The ship held a whole village of Igbo people from the African kingdom of Benin. They had been captured by the ship's owners and brought to the island to be sold. Their ride across the ocean passage had been long, with many days spent in airless dark beneath the pitching decks of the ship. When the ship docked at the bluff, the Igbo people could no longer hear the crash of ocean waves, only the groan of the ship and the flapping sails and their own harsh breathing. They trembled and waited quietly, listening to learn something of their fate. Through the wooden side of the ship came the sound of the island drums, the music of Africa. Has some magic brought us home, they cried. They drummed in answer, using their feet on the wooden floor. Mentu heard the rumble of their pounding feet, and it spoke to him like the beating of his heart. We are home, the people drummed. But they were far from home. Mentu and Twi watched the Igbo people brought up from the dark hull of the ship into the light, saw how they squinted into the sun, how they looked out over the unfamiliar marsh meadows in despair. The ship had not returned them to Africa, would never take them home again. Try as the ship's captain might to make them move, the Igbo people refused to set foot on the island. Mentu turned away when the overseer lashed them with his whip, but the people would not budge for the whip, just joined their hands tight together and began to chant a song in their own language. Mentu listened as though his soul lived in his ears. He heard Twi's music in their song, old words from the place where she had been born. What are they saying, Twi? He asked. Sounds like magic. Twi's eyes glittered like moon sparkle on dark water. Old magic, long forgot, boy, she whispered. The people want to go home. Say the water brought them across the passage and it can take them back. For true. She hung her charm bag around Mentu's neck. That water can take me on too, Mentu. You're old enough. Your time to be strong is near. Mentu began to tremble. Will the water take me, Twi? I want to go with you. His grandmother shook her head. Water won't take you. You was born here. Won't take the others 'cause they've forgotten too much. But you haven't taught me all your secrets, Twi, Mentu cried. You haven't told me when my time will come yet. Twi clucked her tongue at him. Still a mischief-making boy child. Twi has taught you many things, Mentu. More secrets than you think. But I will tell you one more. Your time to be strong will come when your back is bent in the fields and your hands are stuck full of cotton spurs. Because then the old ways will try to grow weak inside you. Don't let them. It takes a mighty strength not to forget who you are. where you come from to help others remember it too. Now I must leave you, my child, my heart. Then Twy kissed Mintu fast as a dragonfly, took off running, and as she ran, the years melted from her like butter on ash cake. Her back drew up straight, her hair grew dark and thick with braids, and her skin smoothed until she looked like the young woman who had been taken from Africa those many years before. The islanders feared Twy more than ever when they saw what was happening, and they fell back to let her pass. No one tried to stop her. From the bluff, she held her hands out to the Igbo people on the dock and spoke to them. "Come with me, my brothers and sisters. I will take you home." Mintu wept as the people crossed the dock to join the young Twy on the land. The slave catchers tried to slip ropes around their necks and arms and to hold them back, but they couldn't. The ropes slipped through flesh and bone like it was smoke and seawater. Twy clasped hands with the Igbo people and led them down the bluff to the water's edge. "Twy!" Mintu called out to her, but she would not turn back, even for him. She chanted as she led the people waist deep into the waters of Tea Kettle Creek. Mintu wiped away his tears and chanted with her in a voice as strong as he could make it. "The water can take us home. The water can take us home." He tried to run to her, but found his feet fastened to the land so that he could not move. Twy and the other Igbo people lifted their faces to the sky as water crept over their shoulders and then their necks, but they kept walking as their chains snapped away. "The water can take us home," they sang. "It can take us home." Their song dissolved into bubble and foam as Tea Kettle Creek swirled over the tops of their heads. Mintu's feet suddenly pulled away from the ground and he ran to the water, but he couldn't see Twy or the Igbo people beneath its surface. In time, Mintu swore to everyone left behind that Twy and the Igbos had walked all the way back to Africa on the bottom of the ocean, pulling each other along the sandy floors, pushing aside seaweed like long grass. But their chains and their song will never leave Tea Kettle Creek, others said, and the water there will always be salty as tears. The islanders call that place Igbo's Landing, stopped fishing there, and never cast another net in Tea Kettle Creek for fear of pulling up those chains, sunk deep in soft gray mud, shivered when snow egrets rose from the marsh grass like spirits in the evening. As for Mintu, he learned to be strong in the fields beneath the blistering sun, just as Twy had told him. He sang her old songs to himself while he worked, and to his children until they could sing them back to him. He told stories so rich that they wondered if he had lived in Africa himself, and they played rhythms on the skin drum until they felt their own heart beat in time, gave them their drums, and they played all together, Mintu and his children, and they taught their own children, and they taught theirs through slave time and freedom time, and on up to now time. For true, it takes a mighty strength to not forget. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. It is an AR book. If you're taking AR points and they count for school, go ahead and take the test. I'll see you next time.